this is interesting. So it was amazing. Over the weekend, there was a big brouhaha on Twitter. Trump was having his big first campaign rally after this coronavirus was hitting. It was in Tulsa. And on Friday, blue check Twitter was freaking out. He's going to kill people. Everyone's going to get sick. They're not practicing social distancing. Oh my God, this is genocide, so on and so forth. Amy Siskind, who's a particular one of these jihadis, I think she went very hard on a personal level with Gavin McGinnis and actually had people outside Gavin's houses. So when someone said on Twitter, double check me, I could be completely wrong. And she was tweeting out like, oh my God, this is just terrible. And I said to her, I go, it's amazing how you're claiming to value the lives of people that you spent 4 years demonizing as Nazis. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, these poor Trump voters. And what's even more amazing is a week ago, you had these huge protests, and these same people were like, hell yeah, look how many people there are in the streets. Just shameless. But not a lot of people came out. And then the next day, it's like, haha, Trump's a loser. So if there were a lot of people, they would execute Trump wants to kill grandma.exe. And the second there's not a lot of people, Trump's a loser.exe. It's just as night follows day. So, and it's also funny to me that the argument is Trump is such a loser, he could barely get thousands of people willing to risk death just to see him. What a loser. Okay. Chris Wallace had one of the Trump campaign representatives on his show. This was on Fox, and he wasn't having it. And he got pretty aggressive. Let's check this out.
1 million people wanted tickets for this rally, but we all saw the pictures last night. The arena was no more than 2/3 full. And the outdoor rally that had been planned for the overflow crowd was canceled because there was no overflow crowd. Question. What happened?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Chris, and happy Father's Day to you. Let me explain. When it comes to understanding how the
you know what's great about this? What they're really smart about is they always have a smile on their face. So there's a term in pickup artist literature, and if you read those books, they're very good because they're a good way for people who are socially awkward or introverts to engage with interhuman relationships. And they apply it in a dating context, but it applies to work and so on and so forth. And one of their concepts is something called frame control. Here's an example of fighting frame control. This is the very old hack example of if someone asks you, do you still beat your wife? And no matter what you respond, you're going to be responding to their framing. Frame control is when someone throws out something at you, instead of going to where they want you to be, you stay in your framework and maintain it. It's often very hard to do, but it's, I think, inevitably a smart idea unless your frame is something really detached from reality. Many months ago, we had on the show an example of Diane Abbott, who is really one of the big clowns of the Labour Party in Britain. And Piers Morgan had her on. And it was a great example of strong frame control. I mean, you have to give her credit in that regard. And she was going on about, oh, the Tories, Piers, are terrible. Their immigration policy is a mess. We can't go on like this. It's a shambles. When Labour comes in, we're going to make it better. And Piers goes, all right, here's this case. The guy's mom wasn't born in Britain. She's getting deported. He doesn't have a right to be here. What are you going to do under a Labour administration with this specific case? Piers, Tories aren't working. It's really sad what's going on in that department. And he's like, okay, fine, I got you. What would happen? And she goes, Piers, we cannot continue with this Tory administration. He's like, are you not going to answer my question? And she goes, I did. And she just stuck to it. And it looks crazy, but in a certain sense, it looks a lot better in some ways than the alternative. So credit to Mercedes for sitting there, and he's like, what the hell's going on? No one's showing up. And she's like, thank you for having me. Happy Father's Day. Just do not engage on the terms that they want. Go on.
Work. It's a first come, first serve basis. Basically what the 1 million RSVPs include, it's an opportunity for us to gather data, to get information, obviously. So the key here is that is important is to understand, and I had this with my own personal family who lives not far away from Tulsa, that they were concerned. There were factors involved, like they were concerned about the protesters who were coming in. There were protesters who blocked the mags. And so
hold on. I love the idea that there's like thousands of people, and this is Tulsa, and they're like, I want to see Trump, but there's like a guy with a sign, and I have a gun, but he's got a sign, and I think Black Lives. I mean, that is some spin right there. Go on. Oh my gosh.
That have an impact in terms of people coming to the rally. But what was amazing, Chris, was the fact that over 5.3 million people watched it on all of our digital media channels. And so the reach was far and wide. And that doesn't even include the TV numbers. We also did a pre-rally show, and that was over 2 million views. So, you know, we're living in a virtual time as well.
Look how smart that background is, that she's got the spinning Trump with the turning Trump logo. That's new. That's very clever, because your eye's drawn to it instead of tuning it out. Wow, go on.
Mercedes, if I can.
Yes.
The fact is, the president talks about the attendance at his events. As we all know, he made a big issue of the attendance at his inauguration. He talks about how he can fill an arena and that Joe Biden can't. He didn't fill an arena last night, and you guys were so far off. Let me, if I may finish, and you guys were so far off that you had planned an outdoor rally, and there wasn't an overflow crowd. And watching the coverage and talking to Mark Meredith on the ground today, protesters did not stop people from coming to that rally. The fact is,
oh, absolutely they did.
People didn't show up.
I'm telling you, there were people. I'm telling you, there were people and families that didn't want to, couldn't bring their children because of concerns of the protesters. But let me make this clear. I mean, Joe Biden has an event with empty folded chairs and painted circles on the floor. I'd love to see a Joe Biden rally. Let's bring it on, because there is no comparison. The phenomenon of the rally came because of President Trump, and people came out. Those people that knew that wanted to be there, physically present with the president, they joined us, and they are family-oriented individuals who wanted to come.
Oh my God! It's just amazing. It's you know what's funny? It's like, let's suppose you have a stadium for 10,000 people, and you have 10,000, and then you have a stadium for 300,000 people, and you have 150,000. It's visually, the second one is going to look much worse than the first one, but numerically, that's not the case. Although they are correct in that you expected this many people. This many people did not show up. You got something wrong. Explain yourself there. That's very valid and fair. But look at this shot. Look, there were empty seats. Come on. How do you explain that? God, wow. Go on.
Out and be with us. But here we go.
I mean, we're showing pictures here.
We're going
Mercedes,
into
we're showing
over
Mercedes, please let me. Mercedes, please don't filibuster. Mercedes, please don't filibuster. We're showing pictures here, and it shows big empty areas. Frankly, it makes you guys look silly when you deny the reality of what happened. And as far as, you know, the social distancing and circles on the floor,
I don't know what you're saying. That are you? I'm telling you.
There were empty seats there.
Joe Biden
there were at least a third, if not a half, of the rally was empty. The arena was empty.
I'm going to say this again.
I mean, you can't deny it.
I'm going to say this again. The president went out to talk directly to the American people, to talk about the failed record of Joe Biden. The fact that Joe Biden has been a career politician.
Hold on. This is so weird, because you can very easily imagine saying, we're in coronavirus territory. Many of Trump's voters are older. That stadium is full. They're shoulder to shoulder. It makes you look silly showing a full stadium when people are still dying in the streets, right? It's go on. Wow.
But only supported failed institutions. This is in contrast with President Trump, who has a strong record and is focused on rebuilding this economy. I mean, I got to tell you, want to make a comparison? There is no such thing as a Joe Biden rally.
Mercedes, you're shifting to a campaign speech, which has nothing to do with the attendance of the rally. Let's talk about the polls. Let's talk about the polls. And we did talk about the enthusiasm gap, Mercedes, with Simone. So now let me ask you about some issues in the polls. As we pointed out, the president is trailing Joe Biden in the latest Fox poll by 12 points, 50% to 38. But I want to point to some things inside the poll, because I know one of the arguments is, well, that's just a national poll. If you look at swing states, Biden leads in 5 of them and is basically tied in the 6th, North Carolina. And one of the big reasons for the president's recent drop appears to be that 31% approve of his response to the protest after George Floyd's.
This is a very fair question, a very smart question. And the thing that I think Trump did the best, probably the best move of his not of his presidency, but got to be top 10, the fact that he didn't send in the tanks. The fact that he didn't go hardcore with these protests. They were all begging for it. They were all waiting for it to happen. They couldn't wait to see, look, this is Hitler, authoritarianism. He let it get out of control, blah, blah, blah. And he sat on his hands to a large extent. And this was very smart, because we wouldn't hear a minute's rest of this from now until November if he got the, and they petered out. As soon as he didn't take the bait, it's like, oh, okay, we're not doing this anymore. Go on. Let's just hear her answer this question, then we'll move on.
And 56% disapprove. Mercedes, by wide margins, people in the Fox poll think that Joe Biden respects racial minorities and President Trump does not.
I don't know how that's even possible, because if you want to see the record of Joe Biden, it's one in which he proudly embraced segregationists. I mean, even his colleagues like Senator Kamala Harris basically accused him of being a racist. He's one who gave a eulogy at Senator Robert Byrd's funeral. I mean, we can go down the list. He did not provide any significant change for the black community. In fact, he supported mass incarceration when it came to supporting the 1994 crime bill. This is in complete contrast to President Trump, who has been focused on uplifting the black community.
Okay, yeah, this is boomer con nonsense. Yeah, Dems are the real racist, blah, blah, blah. Cool story, cool story.